is going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
This is Duck Insider.
These are good problems to have, right? So much success that you have more than one place to be.
5-3, touchdown, Oregon.
Off a dribble, launches, and hits the three. Oregon leads.
What a great opportunity it is to be able to play at University of Oregon.
I'm just incredibly proud to be a part of something like this.
She wants another three. Oh, three in a row.
Big Ten champions.
National champions, yes. The Ducks take home an indoor national title.
We are so privileged and so fortunate. We get to see all these young people. We get to see this incredible growth, which is what college is all about.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck athletics.
Really strong weekend in Eugene across the board. There were a few teams that were in town. We had a couple of senior days, a sweep on the diamond, a series win on the diamond. Oregon, I think, overall, against mostly Michigan schools. Across the board, it was a whole lot of Michigan that was in town against lacrosse, baseball, and softball. Oregon fared really well. Softball got a sweep over the weekend against Michigan. The Ducks are actually currently playing right now at the Jane against Loyola Marymount. LMU actually up 4-3 as we speak. We'll give updates of that game throughout. We'll also hear from Coach Lombardi, a few players, as Oregon softball got a series sweep over Michigan on Friday and then a doubleheader Saturday. Oregon baseball also played Michigan, got a series win. Ducks came into the series, weren't playing their best baseball. I think the Ducks are playing pretty close to, well, Waz wouldn't call it their best baseball yet, but playing good baseball, at least in totality over the course of the 3 games over the weekend. Had some senior days, had Kiara Romero at Augusta, finishing up the Augusta Amateur, and as well some track and field all around the rest of Oregon athletics. First, we'll start with softball because it was a strong weekend at the Jane from top to bottom against a Michigan team that was really close with Oregon in the Big Ten standings coming into the weekend. The Ducks paced themselves from Michigan by the end of the weekend, and now Oregon sitting at the top of the Big Ten standings. The Ducks came in a loss back of Northwestern, who was undefeated in conference play. Now Northwestern, UCLA, and Oregon all at 9-1. In Big Ten play at the top of the conference. Oregon with a legitimate chance, if they can continue to play their best softball, to win the Big Ten in their first year in the conference. And it's going to take close victories like Oregon had throughout the weekend. A 3-2 victory on Friday. It was close, competitive. Ducks were able to grind it out. It was a little bit closer on Saturday. The Ducks were down 4-2, headed into the bottom of the 7th inning. Oregon scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 7th, including a walk-off winner early on Saturday. Then in Game 2 of the doubleheader, Oregon left no doubt that they were going to sweep a 9-1 victory in Game 2 of the doubleheader against Michigan. Good weekend for Oregon softball. The weekend's still continuing now against LMU. Ducks and Lions currently in the 4th inning, but Coach Lombardi, after the series sweep of Michigan over the weekend, I think pretty pleased with the way that her club came out to play over the course of the weekend at James Sanders Stadium. 3 wins in a row, 7 wins in a row, but 3 wins in the weekend for Oregon. Ducks playing good softball.
Inning was sitting next to the dugout, I think, as you saw, but I looked over at one point, and you looked up, and you had this smile on your face. Was this kind of the Jane and the way it could impact games? You know, when you've talked all along about the first time you came here on the other side, the impact it could have, did you feel like you felt that again today?
Yes. Our first game, we talk a lot about starting fast, stay fast, finish fast. We finished fast, but we did not start and stay. We were doubting ourselves a little bit, and we needed more. And that's when you could really see like our coaching staff get involved, and this is where we needed our fans. We needed our fans to just step up and make it such an uncomfortable environment, and they did exactly that. Looking up was how I felt. What I felt today is what I felt the first time I ever came here. Like it was just tough. Like what a tough environment, and that's what we need. Like talking about the Lions Den for a long time, but today was just, our fans were unbelievable. They helped us get that win. They were a huge part of that win.
And obviously, stylistically, two different types of wins. Is one more fun as a coach?
What I love is that in order for us to get where we wanted to go, we've got to play series like that and find a way to come out on top. And all 3 games look totally different, but to understand what is being asked of us for each game, and to know that we are never out of the game. I don't care what the score is, as long as we have innings, we have outs, we're never out of it. This team shows that they know how to respond and come back and put runs on the board when we're down. And so I think they learned a valuable lesson in the first game today.
Like you said, just never counting yourselves out. To get 5 innings out of Elise when you guys are already trailing in that game, and she's just continues to get hitters out when people are on base. How big was that for you guys in that first one?
It was really big. And what I know Trinity, I can't remember who said it. We needed Stacy to give us 3. So were they shut out? No, it doesn't matter. Like, what was on the board, this offense, we should be able to go back and get those runs. So I thought Stacy did a great job. Handed it to Elise. I thought Elise was just phenomenal all weekend long. Just really, really good.
Could you talk about what it's like to, I mean, you already mentioned kind of, Stacy coming back, but what that opportunity is, that, having that lefty that we haven't really had on this team for a number of years, but someone who's going to be that powerful lefty. Yeah,
she just gives a different look. I just always think about all good teams have really good left-handed hitters, and so how do you diffuse that? And by having a lefty, it goes a long way. And today some of our outcomes we didn't get, but it doesn't matter. It's about getting her back in there and getting her on the mound and going after. And if she doesn't get something, then it's on us offensively to come and get it back for her. So that's what we need. We need to get her back on the mound and for her to keep doing what she's doing.
The players coming in and out of the game. Paige obviously gets banged up. How'd you feel like your team handled that?
Exactly how they're supposed to, and be very unbothered by it. That's how they're supposed to handle it. Not freaked out that our Golden Glover is coming out of the game and that our third baseman is, coming out of the game. It's next man up, and it's been next man up all year long.
How is Paige?
Good.
How exciting is it for you to see Steph when she goes through the ups and downs of freshman season? She's kind of had to make those adjustments back to the pitchers, but then to see that come through today, she draws 2 walks, and then to make the pitcher force her to throw one back over the middle that she can send out. How excited are you just at the growth that you've seen from her throughout her freshman season?
I think what this group does a really good job of is, regardless if we have success or don't have success, to have short-term memory, learn from it, let it go, and allow it to, add to what is next. So to see her have those 2 walks and then come up with a big bomb, for that, it's just they're facing elite pitching. And so it's not so much, I would say, ups and downs for them. It's just you're going to have success, and then you're not going to have the success. This game is a game of the opposite, of not having a whole lot of success. So you've got to take things, learn from it, and move it into your next at bat. And I think they are all doing a really good job of that.
How much, if any at all, does it take from you to refocus your group for a second game, 30 minutes after an emotional, intense walk-off victory, to kind of reset their mind for, hey, brand new game starts right now?
Yeah, we went in and we celebrated that. To come from behind and walk that off, we celebrated that. But then to be able to put on the brakes and just let it go and take a second to eat, to just reset, and then, are these guys happy with getting the series, or do they want the sweep? And to see them go and get the sweep was huge. That's a really, really good team. So for us to fight and claw and just scratch and find a way to win, that excites me about this team, because that's what it's going to take moving forward. Like every game for the rest of the way, we're going to have to find different ways to win and be down and not care, because we're confident that we're going to find a way to come back and win the ball game.
Could you talk about what it's like, if it is a change, but like when intentional walks, that's not something that you guys have had a lot of, but as the hot hitters are kind of in these situational things, but Michigan doesn't have a history of doing a lot of those intentional walks, but that kind of gamesmanship, you guys had the opportunities, and every time that it happened, you guys ended up using it and capitalizing on it. But if that changes any of the metrics or whatever I'm trying to say?
I don't know. I just think that's part of the game. You know, early in the game, we walked the righty to get the lefty, and I thought that was the right thing to do. And they capitalized. They found a way to still be successful. So I mean, I think there's going to always be different risks that you've got to take. You got to trust that what you're planning to do, that it's going to come through. And then if it doesn't, then figure out what's next. You know, and I think that's what this team does a really good job of, is just, okay, what's the next right thing to do? Whether we just got something positive for us or maybe something that didn't go our way, what is the next right thing?
You're always, just talking about the preparation that you guys do during the week and even in the off season. Just on a weekend like this where you guys find different ways, I mean, how much credit do you give to your coaching staff and just all your support staff in general?
A lot. Like, it takes everybody. You know, we can only have 9 on the field, but everybody in the dugout, were huge in the wins that happened. The preparation, the things that our coaches are doing in game. You know, you're going into the game with one plan, and if that plan's not working, then you're having to flip it. And I think that's the hardest thing just in sport in general, is the in-game adjustment, because emotions get in the way, and you have to be able to check your emotions and really get caught up in what just happened and what we need to do to be better with it. And I think they've really done a good job of handling their emotions and listening for the in-game adjustment versus maybe being upset with an outcome that didn't go their way.
That's Coach Lombardi from the series sweep over the weekend against Michigan, brought to you by the Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Better cancer care close to home. Oregon, right now, they're playing a Monday game against LMU, looking for the next right thing. Ducks down 5-3 in the bottom of the 4th inning. Still plenty of time, but need some offense, need it quick. Ducks got clutch offense over the weekend against Michigan, where in the 7th inning of the first game of the doubleheader on Saturday, the Ducks were down by 2 runs going into the final frame. Kedri Luchar, clutch knock, a 2 RBI game-winning walk-off single in order to score. Well, 2 players, including her sister Kai. Big-time moment for Kedri Luchar. She spoke to the media after her walk-off winner.
I know it was in game 2, obviously, but just that moment of being able to drive your sister for the walk-off hit. I mean, it's almost storybook-like. Is that something that you would kind of call or reference like that?
Say that again, sorry.
Storybook-like that you drove your sister for the run.
It's always fun hearing her at third. She's always so loud for me. Like, yeah, it's awesome.
What's that moment like when you get up there and you have that opportunity? What's going through your head? How do you kind of compose yourself for that moment?
With Kylie at third, or just in general?
The ability to walk off the game.
Yeah, I think just really trusting the process. That's what we talk about a lot, and just breathing and staying calm, knowing that nobody's going to beat me.
The energy you guys have right now, just collectively, like, what's the sense of belief? Obviously, you had to dig deep to rally there, but like, what's the sense of belief that you guys can come back in a situation like that?
Yeah, I think just having each other's backs, like just with Paige going down 2, and if somebody doesn't get what they want in an at-bat, the next person is going to do it because they want to do it for that person. So I just think we're always going to get the next one and do the next right thing.
The defense overall is playing exceptionally well, partly because of plays like you made yesterday, but where you guys were able to take an out away from a batter that normally wouldn't be an out. What's it like to be a part of that defense and know that you've got like that extra support for your pitchers who are doing incredibly well?
Our defense is awesome. I mean, I feel like we don't really have that many plays to make because our pitchers are just so dominant, but when we do, we're just ready for it. We're always ready for it.
How do you feel like the crowd kind of elevated you guys in that big inning?
Crowd is awesome. Coach Lombardi said that it was a lion's den today, and it really was. We felt it. The Jane was loud. Fans were standing, stomping. It was awesome.
How would you describe the dugout going into that 4th inning rally that boosted you guys to produce the way you did?
Yeah, we were had all the energy. We were our normal selves. That's what we do. We're energy. So, yeah.
When Kai missed that foul ball and you came up to her, did you basically say, "I would have caught that"?
No. That was a great idea, though. I'm going to do that next time. No, she almost had that. Very close.
Kedji Lushar, she's had a stellar season for Oregon. She has had coming off of a really strong weekend, a clutch weekend for Kedji Lushar, where Oregon softball, they won all 3 games against Michigan. It was a great atmosphere at the chain. Really, across all of the Diamond Sports this weekend, atmosphere was electric, both at the Jane and at PK Park. It was really strong. It felt like a regional atmosphere. Coach Lombardi refers to the Jane as a lion's den. PK Park was sold out on Saturday. It was a fun game. It was a fun weekend to be a part of, with the energy and the atmosphere and the community that were around both Jane Sanders Stadium and PK Park. Oregon baseball, they took the series, also played Michigan, won the first 2 against the Wolverines. Offense really came to play, but the Ducks did drop yesterday in what was one of just objectively a really good baseball game. We're breaking it down when we return on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Back in the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you on a Monday. I was at PK Park over the weekend, and it was really fun to be a part of PK Park. The atmosphere, it felt like a regional or a super regional atmosphere over the weekend. And just a little bit of a preview to what next week's going to be like. Well, Oregon's on the road this upcoming weekend against Maryland, and then the week after, going up against UCLA, 2 teams that are competing at the top of the Big Ten Conference. Get out to PK Park in 2 weeks from now, because Oregon will need you to go on this stretch run as the Ducks try to stay at the top of the Big Ten. And then also the week after will be Oregon football spring game and Oregon versus Oregon State at PK Park. I can't wait to be around PK Park for the next few weekends, for the rest of this month of April. It's going to be a lot of fun against quality opponents. Hopefully some good weather at PK Park, because it was good weather, especially Friday and Saturday, and it felt like baseball should feel like in Eugene. A 15-2 victory on Friday. Oregon entered this series coming off of 3 straight losses, and the Ducks, they really came to play and especially came to hit. Grayson Grinsell was good on the mound. The offense was better at the plate. Oregon absolutely rolled to a 15-2 Friday victory. Dominic Hellman hit a ball that I still don't think has come down over the bullpen in left field. It was a grand slam, his third grand slam of the season. Then on Saturday, another run rule walk-off victory. The Ducks only played 7 innings on Friday, played 8 innings on Saturday because they outpaced Michigan by so many runs. Ducks were down 3-2 in this ball game on Saturday against Michigan, and then rattled off, 11 unanswered runs? Yeah, it was really fun at PK Park. Jacob Walsh, he set the Oregon all-time RBI record in that game on Saturday. 2 really strong games for Oregon. I thought Oregon hit really well on Sunday. Didn't pitch as great on Sunday. The Ducks lost 12-11 in what was just one heck of a baseball game. There were so many moments back and forth in this ball game, to Anson Arrows making a ridiculous home run robbery of the likes that I'm not sure I've ever seen. He went full extension about 3-4 feet over the wall in left field to take a home run back. Will Sanford made a great play that initially looked like it was going to save a run, diving bare hand to first base. It looked like he got there, then it got overturned. There were plays here and plays there, back and forth the whole way through. Jacob Walsh hit a ball onto Pape Field. He hit one off of the top of the player development area, and it went on to Pape Field while Oregon and Michigan were playing lacrosse at Pape Field. It was really fun to be a part of, a big offensive output, but Oregon going into Sunday with an opportunity to sweep. The Ducks would have liked to sweep. But Coach Wazakowski, I think, pleased with the offensive effort, the return to form for Oregon offensively. The Ducks had really quality offensive at-bats throughout the course of this weekend, but on Sunday, the pitching, it didn't stack up the same way it did. 5 combined runs for the first 2 games. Michigan put up 12 in the game against Oregon on Sunday. With the expectation of a sweep, I think Waz a little bit disappointed with the result, but still, I thought strong weekend for Oregon baseball and a return to form for the Ducks. Coach Wazakowski and his thoughts after a series win against Michigan, but ultimately a Sunday loss versus the Wolverines.
Coming into the weekend, looking to kind of get back on track, take 2 of 3. How do you digest the totality of the weekend?
I'll digest it all tomorrow.
So, any thoughts on this one particularly then?
Well, we lost, and the objective was to win.
Elevated bullpen struggles game 1 and game 2 came about again today after they did last week and earlier in the week. Just, again, how do you try to figure out how to get those to stop happening as frequently?
Great question. You know, we're going to dive into the tape, and we're going to assess how we're using guys, who we're using in spots, and try to make as good a decision as we possibly can to be able to fix it. It's a real issue.
Did you like the way your offense was kind of bouncing back from innings they scored to try to keep you in it?
Yeah, good question, Rob. I mean, yes, right? Yes. You know, and yet there were some pretty big at-bats that we had that really got away from us. And I thought times in the game where we probably could have put them away pretty easily. And so, you know, that was disappointing. I think in the other 2 games of the weekend, we got those at-bats to work out for us. And then today, obviously, we didn't. But we had some pretty, you know, set up tables for some key guys to be able to come through today. And by and large, it didn't work out on those at-bats.
Do you feel like some of those guys were maybe trying to do too much, make too big of a moment, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can always say stuff like that, sure. But, I mean, ultimately it's, you know, I mean, you can always put reasons and excuses, and there's no excuses. We didn't get it done.
I know this is very subjective, but, you know, you said in Portland, the guys were down. They were looking forward to getting back to practice, but they were down.
Sure.
3 games later, again, you win the series, but you're walking off with a loss today. Do you have a sense for kind of the mindset right now overall?
Well, yeah, I got a pretty good sense for the mindset of the group. You know, they're happy that they won a series, right? When you win a series, it's good. The objective was to win today for a sweep, and I think that they feel like they left a lot on the table today. We didn't pitch it worth a darn. You know, the defense was, you know, at times elite. You know, Maddox Maloney's play there in whatever it was, the 8th inning or something like that, was pretty spectacular. And then there were some other things that slipped away from us from a defensive standpoint. I mean, there's some guys that got thrown out on the bases from Magers' standpoint, being able to catch and throw and do that. I thought that was great. That changed some innings. But, you know, I mean, by and large, I think we could have done more with the bats, and we sure could have done a lot more on the mound.
Can you walk us through the Garrotti incident there with the runner's interference and just what that rule is, and I guess
I mean, it's a foul pop-up, and the umpires ruled that Garrotti somehow interfered with the play and called him out. I obviously didn't agree.
Did they say he did it, or like where he put his bat interfered? Like, what was the interference?
That's I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
Anson goes and makes one of the greatest catches that a lot of us have ever seen. Does he do anything that surprises you anymore?
No, he does that in practice every day too. I mean, it's crazy how good the kid is. He's remarkable, and he's an even better kid. You know, I mean, he I don't know if he's got 5 Bs in his career at this school. I mean, he might not. You know, I mean, he's a tremendous kid, tremendous student, going to be highly successful in life. He's a real rock star.
You guys get Stokes going again, a bunch of wild pitches, a bunch of walks, hit batters. Just how do you get him going again as your closer?
Well, it's loose right now, and so, you know, we're going to have to look at that and devise a plan right now to be able to get him back on track, because he's not right now.
Is your game plan headed into the day? You know, obviously you get Sanford to go 4. Did you feel like you needed more out of Ian there instead of his just one inning? That kind of messed up what the bullpen would look like.
Not necessarily. We had plenty of pieces in the bullpen available. You know, it's about pitching good, you know, when you get your opportunity. And I didn't think we pitched good today, you know. Just very simple. I didn't see it on the mound. And, you know, we got to do a better job getting those guys prepared to where they can show out and pitch well.
You said you want to get Stokes going. You mentioned a couple of weeks ago that you wanted to get Fethy kind of back into rhythm. Do you feel like his last few outings have been a little bit closer to the right track?
There were parts of his outing today that were good and parts that were, you know, not what it looks like, right? You know, he was competitive, especially getting 2 strikeouts right out of the chute and then going 2 walks to score 2 guys. That's not what it looks like, right? So, yeah, he didn't come in the easiest situation, bases loaded, no out situation. To get 2 outs right away via strikeout, pretty impressive. I mean, you'd love to see him, you know, even if he gave up a hit or something like that, you know, everybody would probably rather see a base hit go out there than free bases.
I believe they had 7 2-out RBIs. What can pitchers do to put the inning away?
Well, not give up the hit, right, with 2 outs. And so usually you got to land your pitches and get ahead in the count, win your 1-1 counts to where your averages in the game play for you instead of against you. Yeah.
Couldn't get on base 5 times today. Just what did you make of his at-bats?
Yeah, tremendous game. I was proud of Drew Smith and Ryan Cooney. You know, Ryan had a very good game again. Just, you know, blistered the ball up the middle there at the end, hit a backside ball, you know, for a base hit. He's, you know, I don't know, we don't name players of the game when you don't win the game, but he had a tremendous game. Drew Smith hadn't been playing because of a lot of injury situations and stuff, and now he got a crack, and to be able to have a short stroke on that ball, and yeah, I thought he hit the first one that he had. I thought he hit hard too. So 2 good at bats off the bench. I was really happy for Drew and Ryan. I thought they both played very well.
How do you try to work in Drew Smith? There's been, you know, Carter's been pretty struggling recently. You have right field kind of rotating. Just how do you try to work him in?
Yeah, we'll find a way.
Oregon lost on Sunday. Not as happy as I think would have been if Oregon would have gotten a sweep, but I think still a lot of positives. He talked about Drew Smith, who had a 3-run home run off the bench in the game that got Oregon back into it on Sunday. Ryan Cooney had a really strong day at the plate. Oregon offensively played really well throughout the course of this series. Ducks are going to have to carry that momentum offensively into Maryland as the Ducks in a race, but still chasing a few games at the top of the Big Ten. Also going on around the complex around here is Oregon football spring practices. The Ducks have been out at Autzen Stadium over the course of the last few weeks getting work done at spring practice, getting to hear from some of the work that got done over the weekend as well as the entire offseason when we return after this on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial. Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost. I had snapped. I had a gun and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still a life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone. Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. It was a strong weekend on the diamond for both Oregon baseball and softball. I think in totality, Ducks, you take 5 out of 6 games over the weekend, you're feeling good, but Oregon baseball, they lost their finale by a run against Michigan. Oregon softball right now against LMU, still down 2, 5-3 in the 6th inning. Ducks have work to do on the softball diamond. There's a lot of work being done on the football field for Oregon over the course of this spring as we ramp up to the spring game coming up on April 26th for Oregon, as they will continue to practice in Autzen Stadium, getting ready for that spring game and ultimately getting ready for the 2025 football season. Tight ends coach Drew Maringer, he's had a little bit of a shakeup in his room with some veterans leaving, going to be pros pretty soon. It means that there are new guys that have to step up and new training that needs to be done. Tight ends coach Drew Maringer talking with the media post-spring practice.
When each year you've had a pretty good veteran presence in the room, either by age or by playing time, and now it's, I mean, you knew this was going to happen, but when it's just shifting as it is, what's different for you about the composition of this room?
The point you're making right there, I think, is a valid one, right? There's some youth in there and some inexperience, right? Kenyon being the most experienced player that we have in the room. Jamari's played, he's played at Louisville and coming in here, excited about where he's at and where he's going to go. But it's always a challenge. As a coach, I think that stuff is fun, though, right? Because you kind of get them from the very, very beginning, and you can mold them into the player that they need to be and where they can become. So, but certainly there's a little bit more pressure when you don't have Terrence and Patrick that have played, I can't tell, like 2,000 snaps for you. You know what I mean? So as we move forward, the burden of leadership falls on Kenyon, like within our room. And he's done a good job with that. He's not a terribly vocal guy, but we're pushing him to be more and more vocal, and he does a little bit more of that every single day. So he's growing in that role. But, it's not unique to just the tight end room. I think that exists a lot of different places. And so leadership in my room doesn't necessarily have to always come from the tight end. I mean, last year, Josh Connerly and Jeff Bossa did a really, really good job of that. So we'll see. We'll watch them continue to develop. There's not a ton of time, right? But we do have some time, and we'll see how those guys go. It'll be nice to get Roger back as well eventually.
Will has not been shy about calling Kenyon one of the best players in the nation, one of the best tight ends in the nation. First of all, what are your thoughts on that? And then has there been anyone kind of like him that you've coached before, that kind of athleticism, that build?
It's funny, like as your position or as his position coach, you kind of see a little bit more, some more of the flaws and stuff like that in him. I think he's still got a lot of room to grow. And you feel because he's such a good kid. The world doesn't deserve as good of an athlete and as good of a kid. He works really, really hard. He's a yes sir, no sir. Whatever you ask him to do, he'll do, even if it's something that nobody really wants to do. He'll do it with a big smile on his face. So I think that it is fun to watch him develop and see where he's growing. And I think certainly the position that he's currently in, without Terrence and Pat there, right? It's kind of a lot more spotlight, so to speak, on him. It's fun to watch him kind of grow and see his personality blossom into that. I do think he's extremely talented. I don't know how many 247-pound, 22 and a half plus mile an hour people there are out there in the world. But more than that, I think he's like I said, he's a great kid. He's a physical blocker, on top of the fact that he runs fast and catches the ball and scores touchdowns. So I think that his best football is still to come. I'm really, really excited about where he's at. He's one that'll tell you he wants to be coached. And so I don't think that he can, I certainly won't, and I don't think he would either, let you rest on, hey, I've got talent, and that's good enough. He wants to be the best that he can possibly be. And so we're going to continue to push him. Players like that, I don't know. A guy that comes to mind that did a lot of hybrid things for me, played for me at Texas, little Jordan Humphrey, but he couldn't run quite like Kenyon can. So, but he just signed again this year, so he's going into year 6 or 7 in the NFL. So I'm pumped for that kid. But great kid, really, really great kid.
In terms of leadership, you kind of mentioned maybe he's not naturally very vocal, but just the skill set and the talent, and then as you're saying, kind of the disposition and the character stuff, does that just naturally make people gravitate and respect him and maybe make that leadership a little easier to a certain degree?
So I think, yeah, right. It's a good word for it, respect. I think respect exists by the way that you handle your business first, right? Like we all respect our coworkers when they do their job and do it well, they're on time. And the same for us as a staff. And Kenyon certainly does that. He's one of the first people in the building. He's always prepared. He grades out really, really high every single day. And so I think that he's very much respected for the way that he handles his business. And, he's the same guy every day. He's not high one day and low another one. I tell the tight ends all the time, consistency is the hardest thing to do in life, to be consistent. And it's hard to be a consistent husband. It's hard to be a consistent father, much less a consistent football player, where everybody on social media is telling you how good you are. Those guys being consistent every single day. Patrick Herbert was unbelievably consistent and not very talkative. From what I gather, not many of the Herbert brothers are very talkative. Very much respected on this team, and when he speaks, people listen, because if he is speaking, it comes from the heart. And so I don't ask Kenyon to be a rah-rah guy, but I do ask him to be intentional about what he says. And there are times as a leader when we don't want to talk, in leadership roles, that it is necessary and impactful in people's life. And you don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. You need to, but you need to speak, honestly and earnestly into those lives to help the people around you become the best players that they can be, because at the end of the day, it is a team sport. 11 people don't play right on offense, a lot more than 11 play. And so, when the best player in my room comes over to you and says, hey man, I need more from you, it's impactful for, I think, some of those freshmen. And, I think it matters. And so continuing to push him and not ask him to be something that he's not, but continue to push him and grow him in that role, I think is important for him. It matters when our best players practice really, really hard. They practice really, really well, and they're consistent. And if they are, then the rest of the other guys, what excuse do you have?
Now that Jamari's here, what has it been like working with him? How limited, if anything, he is 6 months removed from the leg injury, and I know he did a lot more in-line than slot at Louisville, and you've got a lot of in-line reps out there to be had. Where do you see him fitting role-wise?
That's a great question. So Jamari kind of got in there a little bit for the first time today, so it was our first kind of real glimpse with him at pads and contact and stuff like that. Jamari's a very smart kid. He's a very willing person. He's got a great personality, and wants to be coached. He's not a guy that shies away from coaching. He's a guy that'll look you in the eye and say, yes, sir, and do exactly what you ask him to do. Is he right all the time? No, and that's part of being a coach. And getting those guys to understand what it takes to be not just a good football player, but also a grown man. Where he's at right now, Jamari's 6'6". I bet he's got to be right around 260 right now. He's a big joker. But he's faster than you think that he is, and he's twitchier, and he has great hands. He has humongous hands. So where he's going to end up, I don't know. He's obviously a very different body type than what Kenyon is, and so we'll see how they work together out there on the field. I anticipate seeing a lot of him come the fall. I think he's very, very gifted, and if he wasn't, obviously we wouldn't have tried to bring him here. So I'm not sure if it's like you kind of referenced inline. I don't know. Like, I think he's a bigger athlete than that. So we'll see how it works out. But after practice 5 and only him kind of being in there for a little bit today, I'm not entirely sure, but I'll have a better feel for that probably at the end of spring.
6'6", 260. Yeah, I mean, that'll work. Probably could block pretty well. New additions to the tight end room. It's a new look tight end room. That's the first part of the conversation with Drew Maringer. Getting to part 2, continuing to break down what the tight end grouping is going to look like coming up this year at Autzen Stadium when we come back on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear Truckin' Awesome, Toyota Tundra's got heart-pounding horsepower. Tacoma is one rugged ride, and the 4Runner is tough as nails. Truck yeah. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Dear Truckin' Awesome, Toyota Tundra's got heart-pounding horsepower. Tacoma is one rugged ride, and the 4Runner is tough as nails. Truck yeah. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
This is Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
You say you'd never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
I'm coming home to the place that I remember, back to the land of my first love. Would you spread wide arms for this wayward son? I left my heart.
Back on Duck Insider in the Country Financial Studio. Heard the first part of the conversation with co-offensive coordinator and tight ends coach Drew Maringer. Now time for part 2, breaking down the tight end room for Oregon football.
Kenyon has said that he was kind of a late bloomer in terms of recruiting. How did that change that process, and what was that process like?
So I have to credit Joe Lorig here. Like, I would be remiss if I did not. So Joe is the Idaho recruiter, and Joe is, I mean, in my office probably every 10 days and saying, like, this kid out at Skyline High School right outside Idaho Falls, man, I'm telling you, this kid's really, really good. This kid's really, really good. And we were, at that time, kind of close on a couple other guys, but weren't 100% sure. So it was probably I don't know, probably May or so, April, May, coming around probably this time this year, and our recruitment of him started to pick up, right? And I think that in this day and age, with so much information available and video available, it's easy to just check, rivals 247 on three, right, and say, who do they think is the best? Let's just go recruit them. And then what you end up doing is if you do your research and do your job, as a recruiter, you go and watch more tape and you're like, hey, this kid as a junior ran an 11-1 in the middle of winter in Idaho. This kid's fast. So let's go watch this kid play. He shows physicality out there in the field, right? He didn't play quarterback, but he played pretty much every single other position. He's multiple time state champion, right? And end up being the Gatorade Player of the Year in that state. And so you look at his skill set and you say, man, like how many people can do that? And I was like, not very many, not at that speed. So to say a late bloomer, probably because a lot of people would maybe say like, is he a 6'6" kid? No, he's not, right? And it's easy to fall in love with, gigantic people. But I think you got to look at the overall picture of who the player is. And especially at my position, it's not just one body type. You look around and there's going to be a variety of different body types. I mean, Patrick Herbert and Terrence Ferguson are different style of players. Kenyon was a different style of player. Jamari is a different style of player. Roger's a different style of player. Zach Grace played a little bit for us, and he's a different, but they're all in the same room. And so can they provide a different dynamic, and how can they go help you win? Can they play at a high level? And to me, at my position, do they have a minimum size requirement, speed requirement, whatever that is, right, for you? And are they high character, intelligent? And intelligent is not just like, we don't need philosophers out there. No offense to Socrates and, people like that. As much as I love Greek philosophy, but we need guys that can process information and process it quickly. Can you be physical, and are you not afraid to be great? And I think all those guys in that room right now fit all those molds, but they come from a variety of different body types. So he is a late bloomer, maybe in his mind he is, right? Was he the most highly recruited tight end in the country? No. But I think more of that comes from him as like maybe a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, that he feels like he's got something to prove. And I think that's kind of who he is. Yeah.
It's fitting that you bring up Socrates. It feels like you've kind of become the historian or the teacher on these annual runs to Hayward every year. Is that something that comes naturally to you? How did that come about? And
so the one we did last year, not the one we did this year, on the history of Hayward Field, Lanning told me maybe 3 days prior to that, and he was like, hey man, I need you to talk about the history of Hayward Field. So I thought we were, like, when he said this, I thought we were doing this like in the team room, and I was going to show like a PowerPoint slide or something like that, right? And he was like, no, we're going to do it at the end of this team run. Like, you need to give like this rah, remember the Titans type speech. And I was like, oh my God, okay. Yeah, okay. So, I kind of jump and run with it, try to give as much information and tie it back to, what where we're at in the culture of our program right now, or at least in those moments, and make it meaningful for the kids. I think it's really easy in this day and age, the transfer portal and all this stuff, right? There's 100 million distractions, but like to understand the history of the program that you play, the sport that you play, all of the people that came before you, that helped build the foundation for, that you stand on currently. Like, it didn't just happen overnight. It took a lot of people, a lot of years and a lot of hard work, and some people on the field and a lot of people off the field, to make that happen. And so I think it gives them a different perspective on what the O means for them, what Hayward Field means for them, right? What Autzen Stadium means, and all of those people that came before him, in the Remember Titans, he referenced Gettysburg. Obviously, they were at Gettysburg, and it provided I thought a unique perspective to those guys, and it changed the way that they thought about their team. And I think that's what we're trying to get out of it. So I don't know that I'm the historian. I think Hawk probably is the historian here, but I try to do the best I can, to hammer home a little bit of history. I do love history, but a little bit of history and a little bit of perspective of where they're at and why they're here.
What did the next 3 weeks kind of look like for your room, Drew? And that, not just because it's younger, but you'd mentioned like guys coming off injury, like if Jamari just got out there today, but Rogers limited probably the whole way, or AJ's coming off one, and Vander's a new guy, and all right, yeah, you have Zach and Kate, but like, what is the rep distribution? Because Dan talks about 2-spot practices, and you don't have enough bodies for 2 spots necessarily. So like, what does that actually look like over the next 3 weeks for you guys?
So currently, I think we do. Is it tight? Like we have enough bodies in there for that. And what does that provide? It provides a lot of opportunities, right? So if you're a young guy, if you're a young guy that has 10 tight ends on the roster in a 1-spot practice, right? How many reps are you going to probably get in that practice? Not very many. So it does provide those guys a bunch of opportunities. Part of this position is being tough, and so sometimes you got to go at times that other guys don't. What it also does, though, when let's just say that we didn't have enough guys, right? We've got plenty of good running backs out there that could do that. We can make that from 12 personnel to 21 personnel. It gives guys other opportunities as well. It's good to see all of my guys. They're going to get more than enough reps, I think, at practice. But it gives guys like De'Aaron Hill a chance to get out there, and we can see what he looks like. In a very talented running back room. You're getting a chance to see some of Cooper Perry and DeCorian Moore and some of those guys, right? A little bit more in some of those reps that doesn't necessarily have to be just a tight end, especially, in detached positions and things like that. We've, used an offensive lineman in one of those roles, right? If it's going to be in an attached role. And it gives, another look at, Zaire, out there for another rep. So I think that there's a number of different ways to look at it, but I know Coach Lanning will never go away from 2-spot as long as he has the people to do it, and I do think it's really, really healthy for our program. AJ's been good. He's been healthy, so it's been, for my unit, they've gotten a ton of reps, and I'm super thankful for it. I've never been a part of a program that have done 2-spot like this until I got here. And I can't imagine not doing it because your just development curve slows way down for, a lot of people, especially a lot of new guys that get into their program. And in this day and age, the more people that can get reps, injuries happen. We got transfers that are here. The more reps that happen on the football field, I think the better your team is going to be when you talk about them being a good football team down the stretch. So. I think it's really good. Are we ever going to have 10 tight ends here? I don't think so. It's been a 6 to 8 type of number, and so part of that is being tough, but that's this position, and I think that's life. For all of you guys and for me, that you get stretched at home. Work is tough, right? You got to go, and you're tired, and got to get home, still be a great husband, be a great father, and I always try and relate it back to like what life after football is going to be, and it's hard to do that. But if you can figure out how to push through some of those moments when you feel like, hey man, I'm pretty spent here, right, and still end up being super positive for your wife and super positive for your kids, and be that guy, it goes a long way. Your relationships grow and you develop in those roles like you would on the football field.
Great life advice from Drew Maringer at the end there, talking about the whole tight end room, the philosophy, all of it. Touched on a lot with Drew Maringer, getting prepared for Oregon football as we approach the spring game later this month, and then, of course, football season coming up in the fall of 2025. There's a whole lot going on around the university right now. We got to get to all of it, touching you up on all of it when we return on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial. Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by your local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow. You sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
You know you make me wanna kick my heels up and throw my hands up and throw my head back and come on now. Don't forget to say you will. Don't forget to say yeah.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's time for the Cafe Yum 2-minute drill. Got a whole lot to touch on over the weekend. Oregon women's golf individual Kiara Romero was in Augusta, Georgia, playing at Augusta National. Finished in the top 10 in the Augusta National Women's Amateur on Saturday. She closed up with a 2/74, finished in a tie for seventh place, becomes the second ever Duck to finish top 10 at the Augusta National Women's Amateur. In women's golf, for the team, they are in action right now at the Chevron Silverado Showdown coming up. Starting earlier today, they're in the middle of their first round. Will be without Kiara Romero and Karen Suru in this tournament. So Oregon playing a little bit shorthanded. How will the Ducks fare? Still a top 5 Ducks team and a pretty stacked field. Over the weekend, it was also senior days for both Oregon beach volleyball and Oregon lacrosse. On Sunday, Oregon lacrosse played pretty well against a top 16 ranked Michigan Wolverines team. Lost 14-9, but their goalie, senior Paige Crowther, matched a career high with 17 saves, which she matched from a total last week, playing pretty well. Beach volleyball also on their senior day got a 5-0 win over Bushnell, also a 5-0 win over Portland on Saturday over the weekend. And Oregon track and field, 2 different spots. Distance was at Stanford. Deanna Cheritich broke the 10K school record with a 31:45. Juliet Cherobet with a 32:02 also would have broken the previous school record. Big work around the weekend. Bye, everybody. Go Ducks.
I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and I dedicate a lot of my time going fast. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Let's ask their parents a lot of questions.
Why can't people fly?
Grab